and I know people want to keep calling it a conspiracy in terms of what we think, and when we say I am of the same mindset as you are as how this went down. Like I told you off air, as soon as I found your content, man, I fucking dug in, and I was like, damn. You know, I mean, I'm a defense attorney by trade. I've been doing it 20 plus years. I know cops lie. I know cops do dirty shit. I know that there's great cops. You know what I mean? It runs the gamut like it does with any profession. You got good and you got bad. And to me, this wasn't even that. To me, this was a family that something went awry in that party, like quickly, and it escalated quickly, and hammers were thrown, and John got his ass beat, and he got beat more than they anticipated, and they were extremely worried. I mean, because if you look at it realistically from a criminal defense attorney's perspective, even an aggravated battery where they did that much damage to him, like fucks the Albert clan, like irrevocably. You know what I'm saying? So like if they just beat his ass, not even killing him inside the house, but just beat him down to the point where, all right, he was fucked up. Maybe we drag him outside and we just leave him out there and kind of see what happens. And obviously we know the text messages start happening. Like there's that part of me where I want to think that they didn't, obviously whatever happened in that house wasn't intentional. I don't think that they brought him there to murder him. That's not what went down. No. I think it was something that went.
Yeah, I don't think they were going to
way sideways
that day.
Right?
Thinking they were going to murder this guy.
Well, there was
right.
people in the house. There's no,
you know, and the dog starts biting his arm. Like that, no one's telling me a fucking snowplow or that Lexus did that shit to that guy's arm. Ever.
No, of course not. No,
right? I mean, like, anybody with eyes that looks at the autopsies that you've posted,
right?
I mean, every injury is inconsistent with what the state is saying.
Of course. And when you said earlier that it's like your opinion that this is a conspiracy, it's not an opinion, it's a fact. Okay, like it's not an opinion that there's a conspiracy here. If Karen Reed did not kill him, which she could not have possibly done simply by looking at the state of her vehicle and the state of John O'Keefe, it was impossible. Therefore, someone else had to do it, and there was a conspiracy to do it. The only thing we don't know that is a matter of opinion is who did what and when. Like that is the only thing we don't know, but we do know it was a conspiracy.
Yeah, and like I guess my point was I hate the term conspiracy in terms of what we're trying to describe and what you're trying to describe as happening. It's more of a cover-up because when I see people like Offendaffer out there like phrasing it, it's a huge conspiracy. No, it's not a huge conspiracy.
Because it's a bad word. The C word's a bad word.
It's a bad word, man. Like but we'll use the other C word. It was a cover-up because they were trying to cover up what had happened in that house, and the most convenient thing that they could think of in a time crunch was, well, Karen left. Why don't we just say that she accidentally backed into him?
They didn't even have to say that. They had this, but they didn't even say that. All they said was he didn't come in. That's the entire conspiracy. People act like this is so complicated. They get their story straight. Their entire story was he didn't come inside the house. I don't know what the fuck happened to him. You're the cops. You figure it out. And it's like, and then Jen McCabe's like, well, she was saying something about like, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? And you know, like, and Jen McCabe, if you look at her phone logs, she is on the phone the entire day. Keep in mind, she didn't go to sleep the entire day. She didn't go to sleep. She was on the phone talking to people all day. Oh my God. Karen was acting so suspicious. Can you believe what she was saying? Like she was the quarterback of the whole thing. She was the one that like, the men weren't crafty enough to do what Jen McCabe did on that day.
And so Turtle Boy, for our viewers that aren't as steeped in the Karen Reed case knowledge, kind of give, because I know we got a ton of Turtle Riders in here, and welcome y'all. I'm Bob Motta, by the way. I hosted a Defense Diaries podcast, and I love your boy here. But like give my listeners and Publicly Buzzed guys, like kind of an overview of like the main players and who they are.
So the home is owned by a man named Brian Albert. He's a Boston police officer. I believe he's a sergeant too. He's been in the force for like 30 years. He was on this TV show this YouTube show called Boston's Finest. he's a connected Boston cop, and John O'Keefe is also a Boston cop, but they don't know each other really. So that's a little confusing because they both live in Canton and they're both Boston cops, but it's a big force. They don't know each other. And the woman we're talking about here, Jen McCabe, who is also in the house, she's Brian Albert's sister-in-law. So his wife that's his sister. And his wife is in the house too, Nicole Albert, and Jen McCabe's husband, Matt, is also in the house. So those four are all in the house. Also in the house that night is an ATF agent by the name of Brian Higgins, who is buddies with Brian Albert. Also in the house that we know of that night were a girl named Julie Nagel, who dates Brian Albert's son, her friend Sarah Levinson, who is a nurse at a local hospital, and Colin Albert. Colin Albert he's a 17-year-old nephew of Brian Albert. His father is Chris Albert, who is is on the board of selectmen and owns a local pizza shop that makes mediocre chicken parm in the center of town. And so that he is like in the Chris Albert family, Chris and Colin lived like 2 or 3 houses down from John and had issues with John because Colin would throw beer cans on his lawn. They were just bad neighbors basically. Right. And not enough motive to kill someone. People will often bring that up though. Oh, that's not motive to kill. Like you said, they had no intention of killing him. Right. That was not the plan. Like obviously you don't plan on. Yeah, like you could come up with a better way to kill someone than that
went like sideways, and like I don't know if it was you, Turtle Boy, who kind of brought up the concept. Like it does strike me that it was potentially like a weight, like a plate weight, like that somebody just like cracked him over the head with like a 10-pound like plate. I mean, who knows went on. And there's one of the things I wanted to ask you, man, when I was looking. So I was digging through all the documents that our friend of the show and my friend sent me, Sleuthy, because I got her digging into this. And when she digs in, she digs in. So, but I was looking at basically the incident report. And I wanted to ask you this. And I know that it was altered at some point. But if you look through kind of like the cast of characters in terms of who they interviewed, and it has the 3 primary cops who came in, right? So when you get down to the evidence that they had this glass that John O'Keefe allegedly was carrying, but then they talk about 6 solo cups with blood and water in them. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so it's a little confusing because there's 2 police departments involved here. When they first get to the scene at 6 o'clock, that is the Canton Police Department who's first to respond, and it's their crime scene initially. When he dies at 7:53 a.m., the state police officially take over, and they do a search at 5:45. Now, keep in mind, over a foot of snow has fallen in that 12-hour period. So when the Canton police first arrive at the scene at 6 o'clock in the morning, they find on the scene just a broken cocktail glass next to him and just 6 droplets of blood, which they put in red Solo cups. I assume they came from inside the house, but we're not entirely sure where those came from. It doesn't really matter. The point is it can fit in 6 red Solo cups, so there's not much blood. So that means like the blood is somewhere. He had a gigantic gash in the back of his head. Yeah. It was probably somewhere. That house is probably covered in blood, but we won't know because they never searched the house.
It's crazy, dude.
If any of us here, that's the totality of the evidence when they first arrive is the 6 the pieces of glass and the 6 droplets of blood or whatever. That's it. And he's got no shoe on too. So if you're a cop and you come across this dead body on this lawn, he's got no shoe, you're going to assume the other shoe is probably in that house right there because that you're on the property of. But they never searched the house. They didn't, and they don't know anything. So then the state police take over. 12 hours later in the day, after a foot of snow has fallen, a new investigator is in charge named Michael Proctor. And Michael Proctor leads his team, finds multiple pieces of gigantic red Lexus taillight that somehow the Canton Police Department missed. And it was on top of a foot of snow. Somehow it rose when it snowed. Like we have crazy snow here in Massachusetts. When it snows, objects rise for some reason, and it rose to the top. And they also found his shoe. So a missing shoe just magically appeared in a foot of snow. So they find all this stuff, which is a lot more incriminating to Karen Reed because it makes it look like she backed into him. But what we now opine is that the original plan, like why was that shot? Why were those glasses there? I think the plan was to make it look like she hit him over the head with it. Because, but then when they saw that she had accidentally backed into John's car earlier in the morning when she went out looking for him and hit it, and not dented the taillight, and not shattered, cracked the taillight, it. They realized, let's go with that instead. Let's say she backed into him, which is just an absurdly ridiculous plan considering the state of his body, and it wouldn't match up. And I guess they hope that nobody would ever look into this, or that this woman would just give up. I don't know what their plan was. You look at those autopsy photos, it really says it all.
Those things are stunning. And I've handled some horrific cases in my time. I mean, my second season's about this quadruple. 4 people were murdered over 5 years, 2 double homicides. He was a serial killer. I've seen a lot of autopsies, man, and nothing about any of those autopsies in any way, shape, or form fits their narrative at all. And it's like I'm looking at it through the lens of a criminal defense attorney, and I happened to be watching the other night when you had when you jumped in on that stream with Survive the Survivor, and they had
with Wendy,
crazy face on there.
Hey, Wendy's coming on tonight. Spoiler alert: Wendy Murphy is here. She's behind the scenes. Here she comes, baby.
0% chance she's coming on here tonight.
She should never be allowed to talk about this.
She should never be able to talk about anything.
Anything, right?
Dude, my wife was who's a criminal defense attorney as well, was on tilt completely. She doesn't fuck with socials often, but she was like, who is this woman? Talking about defense attorney class and how we're all taught to, pick
find stupid juries.
We go to, we hire all the PR marketing firms to skew the story in the media. Dude, it was crazy time. And
they call us the conspiracy theorists.
Right.
We're the conspiracy theorists.
We're the nuts. We're the crazy ones.
If you look at those pictures of John O'Keefe's body and Karen Reed's Lexus, and you think that did that to that body, then you're the conspiracy theorist, not me. You're the crazy person.
Exactly.
That's the way it needs to be framed here.
Exactly. And I want to get to Proctor because you've done the digging on Proctor. That is because that's a thing. How he ends up becoming the lead investigator from the state police is a thing, and it ties into how they ultimately end up directing this investigation. And the one other thing that I want the people to understand is this got indicted by a grand jury, and originally they went in just trying to throw a manslaughter charge on her. Right. And I don't know how it works because I'm not a Massachusetts lawyer, I'm an Illinois lawyer, but here it's very, very unusual for the grand jury to take it upon themselves to up the charge from a manslaughter to a second-degree murder charge where there is intent involved, because the difference between manslaughter and murder is always intent. Manslaughter can be the heat of the moment type shit, or it can be vehicular where it's an accident, where you shouldn't have been driving and you accidentally hit somebody. But when the grand jury on their own, at least from what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, on their own accord upped it to a second-degree murder case, that changes the whole narrative of this thing. Because my thing is if Alberts and McCabe and that crew is sitting in the house and they're like, oh, fuck, she's checking, how long is it going to take him to die? When she's texting at 2:37 in the morning, how long is it going to take him to freeze to death out there if we just drag him out there? They're already worried about if he's going to survive, because that was kind of my whole thing. I think that text spoke volumes to me that
the Google search
brought him out, that they didn't think he was dead. You know what I mean? He's still breathing.
He wasn't dead.
Yeah, right. So they at that point they don't want him to come to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh no,
it's not going to be a good day for the
It was a very relevant question that she asked Google, was how long to die in cold. She needed to know. She needed to know the answer to that question. And the answer is about in 19-degree weather like that. The answer is about an hour and a half.